Welcome back to the deep dive. So, we spent some good time out on the virtual course, watching the knights tee off and the dragons clash in the land zone. Big power, big strategy.
Definitely, the core combatants are key. But today, we're going to shift our focus a bit. We're moving behind the lines, you could say, and diving into what really shapes the game turn to turn. The Relic Arsenal. Ah, yes.
The toolbox.
Exactly. It's not just about having a strong knight or a powerful dragon. It's about the preparation, the customization. Think of it like your golf bag, right? You don't just walk up and swing wildly.
Now you choose your club, you think about your stance, maybe your caddy whispers some advice.
That's precisely it. Relics are that layer. They're the clubs, the form, the strategy guide. They influence every single swing, every outcome, and how you deal with, well, the hazards of the course. They really define your deck's personality.
And that's a perfect way to frame this deep dive, because our goal today isn't just to list the relics, it's to really understand what they do strategically. We need to unpack the 5 core subclasses,
Right, and see how each one governs different things, tempo, those subtle buffs or debuffs, and maybe most critically, how they act as safety nets, getting your dragons back when things go wrong.
Okay, so before we break down those 5 types, let's just quickly set the scene. Where did these relics actually sit on the game board?
Okay, good question. Location matters, the relic zone. It's physically behind the lance zone, where the dragons are fighting.
Right behind the action.
Yeah, and it flanks the knight's teeing ground. So it's literally positioned as your strategic arsenal, your backup, your support zone.
So these are mostly ongoing effects then, like continuous spells or enchantments we see in other games. They stick around.
Exactly. Most of them are continuous relics. We have 4 main types: gear, swing, course, and caddy. They stay on the board, providing persistent effects, boosting your guys, penalizing the opponent, changing the field conditions, that sort of thing. Okay, 4 continuous types, but you said most of them. Right, there's one big exception. The technique relic. The outlier. Yeah, this one's different. It's an instant, like a one-shot deal. You play it from your hand, boom, it has its effect, usually something big and immediate, and then it goes straight to the discard pile.
So it's like that clutch moment, the surprise play.
Perfect description. It's the tactical burst, the unexpected move, maybe even that desperate, high-risk gamble when you really need it.
Okay, makes sense. Now, before we get into the 5 pillars themselves, let's quickly nail down the language. These relics manipulate 4 key stats. For anyone maybe newer to T-Legion, can we just quickly define HD, DG, YDS, and GP? What do they actually mean in the game?
Yeah, absolutely essential. We need to ground these terms because they're the design anchors for, well, basically every relic.
Okay.
So HD, that's hit damage. Pretty straightforward. It's your raw offensive power, how hard a dragon hits, how much damage it does, usually aimed at chipping away your opponent's GP.
Okay, offense. HD.
Got it. Then DG, that's Dragon Guard. Think defensive stability. It's how well your dragon, or even your knight sometimes, can take a hit, maintain their position, resist penalties. High DG means better defense, more resilience.
Defense and stability.
DG, okay. Third is YDS, yards. This is all about position and movement, how far a dragon moves, how quickly it gets towards the hole, how well it controls the space on the board, distance control, basically.
Movement and position, YDS.
Right. And finally, GP, game points. This is, well, it's everything, really. It's your life total, your score for the whole, and it represents your knight's morale or stamina. If your GP hits 0, game over. You lose.
The critical resource, GP.
Yeah, absolutely. So relics messing with GP are directly impacting the tempo, the endurance, the whole flow of the match.
Okay, that helps a lot. So HD and YDS are kind of offensive positional. DG and GP are more defensive resource-based. That split feels important for what's coming next.
It's fundamental to understanding how the relics are designed.
All right, let's dive in then. So the 5 main subclasses. What I really like here is how clear the identities are, tying back to that golf analogy: gear, swing, course, technique, caddy. And crucially, you mentioned relics don't strike themselves right. Their power is indirect.
Completely indirect. They influence, they modify, they shape the environment or the actions of your knights and dragons, but they never make the attack roll themselves. And yeah, their identities are kept distinct through really strict rules about which of those 4 stats, HD, DG, YDS, GP, they're allowed to focus on.
Keeps the flavor pure. Exactly. If a relic starts messing with stats outside its lane, the whole system gets muddy. So let's start with the most obvious one, maybe. the equipment. Gear relics. Okay, so this is like the actual clubs, gloves, maybe some kind of specialized armor, the physical tools.
That's it. Tools of precision, tools of power. And because they're physical tools, their main stats have to reflect that. So their focus is YDS, yards, and HD, hit damage.
Makes sense. A bigger driver means more distance, potentially more impact.
Right. Like a titanium driver relic might give you a huge YDS boost, but maybe slightly less DG because it's harder to control. They're built for power and distance. Now, they can sometimes touch DG a little. Maybe a specialized wedge offers some minor positional defense.
All right.
But, and this is the key design rule, gear relics absolutely cannot touch GP. Game points, ever.
Okay, let's pause on that.
Yeah.
Why the hard line? If I have, say, awesome armor, a gear relic, wouldn't that boost my confidence, my morale, my GP? Why can't it?
It's about protecting the design space, the strategic niches. The gear is a physical tool. It affects the physical aspects of the swing, how far it goes, how hard it hits, maybe a bit of physical resilience. It fundamentally cannot influence the player's score or mental state or stamina. That's GP.
Ah, I see. So if gear could boost GP, it would step on the toes of other relic types.
That's exactly. It would blur the lines with course relics, which are about the environment and morale, and caddy relics, which are about guidance and stability. Gear has to stay locked within that physical triangle, YDS, HD, and maybe a touch of DG. It's the instrument, not the player's spirit. That's actually a really elegant way to keep the roles distinct.
Okay, so contrast that pure physical output with swing relics. This sounds more like the golfer's technique form, stance, rhythm.
You got it. Swing relics are fundamentally about stability and discipline during the swing itself. They're the defensive and tempo-focused subclass. So if gear is raw output, swing is controlled execution.
Okay, so which stats anchor swing relics?
DG, Dragon Guard, is the absolute must-have here. Good form equals good defense, right? So DG's primary. They usually pair that with YDS because your technique definitely affects how consistently far the ball carries.
DG and YDS. Makes sense. And they can sometimes lightly touch GP, just a little. Because things like focus, discipline, maintaining your rhythm, that can impact your knight's overall stamina or morale over time.
Wait, okay, hold on. Both gear and swing can affect DG and YDS.
Oh.
How do you tell them apart in the heat of the moment? If I need defense and distance, which do I reach for?
It's all about the emphasis in the primary stat. Gear relics lead with HD and YDS. Power and distance first, defense is secondary if it's there at all. Swing relics lead with DG and YDS. Defense and consistency first.
Okay.
And critically, swing relics almost never touch HD. They aren't about hitting harder, they're about hitting steadier. They help with rhythm recovery, consistency. If you want raw power, you grab gear. If you want reliable defensive execution, you pick swing. Okay, that clarifies it. Swing is the steady hand, the consistent execution. Got it. Next up, course relics, the environment itself. Like field spells, exactly. Think terrain, weather conditions, the general atmosphere of the match. This is your macro-level control subclass. It's designed to influence the whole game state, not just one specific dragon or swing.
So it affects both players potentially.
Often, yes, because they represent things like morale, overall endurance, field conditions. Their primary anchor has to be GP. Game points, that's the core. They usually pair GP with either YDS or DG.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a Howling Gale course relic. Maybe it imposes a YDS penalty on everyone because the wind is tough. But perhaps your knight is better trained in wind, so you get a small GP boost representing better morale or focus in those conditions.
Okay, so course relics are the tempo shifters, the stamina managers. If I'm bleeding GP, maybe a course relic could help stabilize my score by changing the conditions. Precisely. They shape the environment and shift the stamina game. The design rule is strict. They must tie back to GP or YDS. They affect the conditions of play. And notice, HD is the absolute lowest priority here. The wind doesn't make you swing harder, it might make the swing tougher or require more focus to sustain. Right. Okay, that covers the continuous ones mostly. Now for the wild card. Technique relics. The one-shot wonders.
Yeah, these are the fireworks. Pure tactical bursts. Surgical, risky, high-impact plays designed for an immediate effect.
So pure offense mostly.
They lean heavily that way. Their main anchors are HD hit damage and YDS yards, big power spikes, sudden bursts of distance, clutch repositioning. But because they represent these, moments of extreme effort or tactical genius,
There's got to be a cost.
there's got to be a cost. They often use GP primarily as a payment or a penalty. Think of a lightning parry technique. Maybe it gives you a huge HD counterattack, but you have to discard 2 cards or pay 100 GP up front. It's a resource drain for immediate impact.
So if I'm facing someone loaded up on technique relics, I should expect sudden, costly aggression.
Absolutely. They're signaling they're willing to burn resources, maybe even health, for those explosive turns. The design rule is all about focus bursts. They're surgical, but they actively avoid providing passive defense. No stability here. Pure high risk, high reward. Okay, and finally, the complete opposite of that gamble. Caddy Relics.
Oh.
The steadying influence. Your loyal support system. Caddies are the variance managers, the safety nets, the voice of reason. Their whole purpose is stability and long-term support.
So defensive and resource focused, like GP.
Exactly. They anchor heavily on DG, Dragon Guard, and GP game points. Think restoring lost GP, reducing incoming penalties, providing passive defensive buffs. A veteran Caddy Relic might say reduce all GP loss from hazards by 50, or all your dragons gain plus 100 DG while this is in play.
Okay, let's push on the overlap again, just to be crystal clear. Swing relics focus on DGYDS. Caddy relics focus on DGGP. GP is arguably the most important resource. Why would I just load up on Caddy relics for all my defensive needs? What's the trade-off?
The trade-off is momentum and aggression. Swing relics, because they include YDS, give you positional stability and consistent movement. That's vital for actually navigating the course and scoring. Caddy relics are fantastic for pure defense, DG, and score protection GP, but they are, by design, the least aggressive subclass.
Oh, okay.
They almost never touch HD, and their YDS effects are usually about safe placement, not gaining ground. So if you need rock-solid defense and resource protection, caddies are your go-to. But if you need that defense combined with reliable movement and maybe setting up plays, you need swing relics. Caddies stabilize, but they won't win you the hole on their own.
Okay, the picture is incredibly clear now. Gear is the physical club, YDS HD. Swing is the smooth technique, DGYDS. Course is the mental game and environment, GPYDS DG. Technique is the risky power play, HDYDS with GP cost. And caddy is the reliable safety net, DGGP.
Wow. Okay, now how does all this careful design actually play out when you make a swing? That's where the magic, or sometimes the disaster, happens. It all feeds into the core dice mechanic, the shot shape roll. It's a single 6-sided die, a 1d6 roll. And this is where that golf authenticity really hits home, the idea that every swing has a shape, a character, not just a raw distance number.
Right, so it's not just about rolling for distance like in some simpler games. T-Legion separates how far the dragon might go that's handled by a different roll, the universal yardage roll, from the style or quality of that specific swing.
Right.
And that style is influenced by your relics.
Precisely. The shot shape roll determines the curve, the control, the immediate stat adjustments that happen because of how you swung, and critically, the risk of a really bad mishit. It turns a standard action into this moment of truth.
Okay, walk us through the outcomes. So 1d6 roll, so what happens on a 1 through 6?
It's a pretty clear curve from best to worst, with increasing risk as you go higher.
All right, roll a 1 straight. This is perfect. The ideal outcome. Cleanest shot, pure benefit. Usually means a guaranteed safe landing, maybe even small GP bonus for the perfect execution. Maximum control, 0 downside. The dream roll. Okay? Roll 2, draw. This is control power. The ball curves slightly inward, gets a bit more run. Stat-wise, it gives you a nice plus 100 HD hitting harder and plus 50 YDS for that extra distance. It's the preferred shot for aggressive power players. Power with control. Nice. Roll a 3, fade. This is control. Wait, well, control. The swing prioritizes placement and stability. Less raw power, more defense. You get plus 100 DG, much harder to disrupt, and still that reliable plus 50 YDS. This is what defensive players often aim for. So if I'm playing that defensive Iron Resolve style, I probably want swing relics that maybe make rolling a 3 more likely, even if it means less chance of the big power from a 2.
That's exactly the kind of strategic deck building choice the system encourages. You tailor your relics to favor the shot shapes that fit your plan. Now, things get spicy starting with the 4.
Uh-oh. Roll a 4. Hook. This is the overswing. You went for broke, you get a massive distance boost. Plus 150 YDS. Huge gain. Could potentially leapfrog you way down the fairway. Sounds great, but what's the catch?
Big catch. The control is gone. You take a nasty not if 100 DG penalty, leaving your dragon wide open defensively. And crucially, a hook has a high chance of sending your dragon into the bunker hazard because you lost that lateral control.
Okay, let's talk about that hook for a sec.
Yeah.
That plus 150 yards is tempting, but losing 100 DG and risking the bunker.
Yeah.
When is that gamble actually worth it in a real game?
It's purely situational, right? If you're way behind on distance, maybe the hole is about to end and your opponent is vulnerable. Maybe you take that shot. Slice Fang players, who are all about YDS and HD above all else, might lean into hooks more often.
Right, live by the sword.
Exactly. But if your opponent has a loaded dragon ready to strike back, rolling a 4 means you fly forward but might just lose your dragon immediately due to that DG penalty, even before considering the bunker. It's a true gamble.
Okay, so 4 is risky. What about 5 and 6, the actual miss hits? Roll a 5, slice. This is just weak contact. Thinned it, topped it, whatever. The ball just doesn't go anywhere. You get Mega to 100 YDS and also Mega to 100 HD, a weak hit that falls short. And this kind of miss hit often sends the dragon scuttling into the rough hazard. Stuck in the tall grass. Okay, and the worst roll. Roll a 6, shank. The absolute nightmare, catastrophic miss hit, Hazel rocket. You lose a huge chunk of distance, Mega to 150 YDS. And worse, the card text usually forces an immediate mandatory hazard check. This could send the dragon straight into the water hazard, or sometimes, depending on the card or situation, it could trigger the OB seal. Out of bounds. Just from a bad swing roll.
Potentially, yes. A shank is that bad. It really captures that gulf feeling where one terrible swing can completely wreck your score for the whole. Permanent exile is on the table with the 6.
Wow, okay, that really underlines why relics aren't just optional extras. They're your main defense against those terrible rolls, aren't they?
Absolutely. They're not just about boosting the good outcomes, 1, 2, 3. They're crucial for mitigating the bad ones, 4, 5, 6. You might have a caddy relic, for example, that says something like, if you roll a 5 or 6 on the shot-shaped roll, treat the result as a 4 instead.
Ah, okay. So it doesn't guarantee success, but it raises the floor, turns a potential disaster into just a risky situation.
Precisely. Your relic loadout becomes your risk management strategy. Are you playing it safe, trying to guarantee those 1s, 2s, and 3s? Or are you building a deck that embraces the variance, hoping to survive the 4s to get those big gains, maybe using techniques to counter the penalties? It's all in the bag.
All right, let's shift gears to when that variance bites you. Your dragon is in the bunker, or the rough, or worse, the water hazard. Getting them back is paramount. And relics are the only way, right? The only way. This is arguably one of their most vital functions of a lifeline. But first, the absolute unbreakable rule we have to state up front. OB is final. Out of bounds means the dragon is gone, finished for the match. No relic can bring it back. Okay, OB is the true point of no return. Good to know. So, for the other hazards bunker, rough, water relic, how do hazard retrieval relics actually work? Is it just automatic?
Not quite automatic. It's a 2-step process, really, and it's designed to be costly and a bit risky itself.
Okay, layer 1.
Layer 1 is the eligibility check. The relic itself has to be capable of retrieving a dragon of a certain size or complexity, which is gated by par. So a specific retrieval relic might say it can only retrieve from par 3 hazards, or maybe up to par 4.
So you can't use like a basic sandwich relic meant for a little par 3 guy to try and dig out a massive par 5 boss dragon that's stuck.
Exactly. The tool has to match the job. That's the first hurdle. You need the right relic for the par value of the dragon and the hazard.
Makes sense. Okay, so you have the right relic. What's layer 2?
Layer 2 is where the drama comes back in. You have to make another shot-shaped roll, 1d6, but this time it applies to the recovery attempt itself. You're not just magically pulling the dragon out, you're simulating the difficulty of hitting a recovery shot from a bad lie.
So the 1-to-6 outcomes apply again, but with a different flavor. Precisely. The curve now dictates how well the retrieval actually went, and what state the dragon is in when, or if, it comes back. Okay, it's here. Recovery roll 1. Straight. Perfect recovery. Like chipping a stiff from the bunker. The dragon comes back safely, often with a little bonus, maybe some GP restored, or a temporary defensive boost and clean escape. Nice. Recovery roll 2-3, draw fade. Solid save for 2 and gets the job done. The dragon is back on the fairway, or land some. Maybe a small perk, but nothing amazing. It's a measured, reliable extraction. Okay, accepted. Recovery roll 4-5. Slice. Uh-oh. Got it out. It wasn't pretty. The shot was compromised. The dragon returns, but it's usually exhausted. It takes some kind of penalty. Maybe loses DG. Maybe you have to discard cards. Maybe a significant GP cost hits your night. Back to vulnerable. Okay, back but weak. Still better than making stuff. And the dreaded 6. Recovery roll 6. Absolute disaster on recovery. It's going to be one of 2 things. Usually specified by the line. Either the retrieval attempt simply fails, the dragon stays stuck in the hazard, or even worse, don't say it.
The recovery shot is so bad, it sends the dragon out of bounds. OB seal. Permanently gone.
Wow. So you could use a powerful, maybe expensive technique relic trying to save your best dragon, roll a 6, and instead of saving it, you accidentally banish it forever.
That is the risk. Especially with certain high-end retrieval relics, it injects incredible tension into those recovery attempts. It's a gamble on top of a necessity.
And I assume these attempts aren't free, resource-wise.
Never free. There's always a cost associated with the attempt itself, usually defined by the Universal Hazard Retrieval Cost Table, unless the specific relic changes it. This typically involves spending resources, maybe taking a mandatory GP hit representing the knight's effort, or having the dragon return exhausted, meaning it can't act properly on the turn it comes back.
Okay, so retrieval is essential, but it's costly, risky, and success isn't even guaranteed.
Got it.
It's a major strategic pivot point in any match. All right, this is where it gets really interesting for deck building. Since all 5 relic subclasses likely have some way to retrieve dragons, how do their core identities, those stat anchors we talked about, influence how they approach retrieval? This feels like where the design really comes together.
It absolutely does. You see 5 distinct philosophies, 5 different tools for tackling this critical problem, each with its own strengths and weaknesses tied directly to its core stats.
Okay, let's break them down. Start with gear hazard retrieval, the tools approach.
Right. Gear relics focus on YDS and HD for retrieval. Think specialized clubs, a specific wedge for the bunker, maybe a heavy iron for the rough. It's the most literal golf recovery, using a tool to physically dig the ball, or dragon, out.
Okay, physical extraction, what are its limits?
The key limitation, tied directly to its identity as a physical tool, is size or complexity. Gear relics are almost always capped at retrieving par 3 or maybe par 4 dragons. The source material is quite clear. The big par 5 boss dragons are just too heavy or too deeply entrenched for a simple tool to handle.
So if my biggest dragon gets stuck, my gear relics are useless for getting it back. Good to know.
Exactly. And again, because gear is physical, it never touches GP during retrieval either. Its strength is reliable physical extraction of your smaller or mid-range dragons.
Okay, next up, swing hazard retrieval. How does good form get you out of trouble?
Swing relics anchor on DG, stability, and YDS, controlled distance. The idea here is that the recovery is successful due to excellent technique under pressure. It's a rhythm-based safety net.
So less about the tool, more about the execution. Precisely. The benefit is often minimizing the downside to help avoid defensive vulnerability when the dragon returns. Because it's about control, not power, they tend to avoid HD effects on retrieval. But they share the same limitation as gear, usually capped at par 3 or par 4 dragons. It's a stable, measured, safe way to recover your standard units. All right, now, course hazard retrieval. This one feels abstract. How does the environment itself help rescue someone?
Yeah, this is the macro play. It's anchored by GP, morale tempo, and often YDS or DG. The flavor is that the course conditions momentarily work in your favor. Maybe the bunker sand packed down just right, or a lucky bounce near the water's edge. The relic represents knowing how to use the environment.
Okay, so the benefits are more about
Resource recovery and stability. They often focus on restoring some GP, representing renewed confidence, or ensuring the dragon returns with decent DG or in a good position, YDS. And because it's about the environment, they rarely impact HD directly. It's about getting back in the game mentally and positionally. Still usually capped below par 5s though. Okay. Now for the main event, it feels like. Technique hazard retrieval. The high risk, high reward option. This is it, the only way home for the big guys. Technique relics use their focus on HD and YDS for retrieval, often demanding a steep GP cost as payment for the miracle attempt. They represent that moment of sheer one-shot brilliance or catastrophic failure.
And the key thing is,
They are the only subclass that can retrieve par 5 dragons. The bosses, the game winners. If your most powerful unit gets stuck, you need a technique relic to even have a chance.
but the risk is equally high, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the shank roll, exactly. That unique ability to save a par 5 is balanced by the terrifying downside. Rolling a 6, shank on a technique retrieval attempt often triggers an explicit, unavoidable OB fail state. Game over for that dragon. You're betting the match on a single die roll for the highest possible reward. That tension, saving the boss versus losing it forever on a 1 in 6, that defines late game strategy, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It forces incredibly tough decisions. Is that par 5 worth that risk right now? Technique retrievals are for players who need that massive tempo swing and are willing to gamble big. Okay, and finally the calming presence. Caddy hazard retrieval, the polar opposite of technique. Caddies are pure stability, anchored by DG and GP. Their retrieval role is to be the most consistent, reliable safety buffer. They focus on mitigating the variance and the penalties of recovery. A caddy retrieval often grants protective bonuses upon return, maybe increased DG, maybe immediate GP restoration. They minimize the risk and the vulnerability. They're the least flashy, avoid HD entirely, and are typically capped at retrieving par 4 dragons.
So, not for the bosses, but very reliable for everything else.
Exactly. If your priority is just getting your dragon back safely, minimizing disruption to your score and defense. The caddy is the smart, measured choice. It's all about long-term sustainability.
And this difference, especially between technique and caddy retrieval, perfectly mirrors the faction identities you mentioned earlier.
It really does. The relic choices directly reinforce the Legion's overall philosophy. Iron Resolve players, they lean heavily on caddy and swing relics for retrieval, stability first, reliable par 4 recoveries, protecting their GP and DG, minimizing risk. They build that safety net.
And the Slice Fang players.
They live for the technique gambles, they embrace the chaos. Their relics often focus on those HDYDS spikes, even during retrieval. They're the ones rolling the dice on saving that par 5, even if it means paying extra resources like discarding cards or burning GP to fuel the attempt. They accept higher risk for that higher power ceiling.
So your choice of retrieval relics isn't just about function, it's a statement about how you want to play the game.
It's a core part of your strategic identity, absolutely. So when you pull it all together, what we've really seen today is that relics aren't just add-ons, they are the fundamental strategic layer that gives T-Legion TCG its depth and dynamism. They provide that essential customization, that toolbox you need to navigate the inherent risks, the hazards that the dragons themselves create.
Yeah.
The careful balancing of those 5 subclasses, their stat anchors, it ensures that your planning, your rhythm, your strategic choices in building that golf bag matter just as much, if not more, than simply having the strongest dragon.
And it really comes back to that idea of the personalized arsenal, doesn't it? You build your relic suite to match your knight's style. Are you the cautious monk, loading up on caddies and swings? The aggressive warrior relying on gear and techniques? Maybe the versatile rogue mixing course and technique for tricky plays? Your relics define your approach.
They really do. All right, that gives us a fantastic understanding. So let's leave our listeners with something to chew on. Here's a provocative thought for you, thinking about your own strategies. All right, that gives us a fantastic understanding. So let's leave our listeners with something to chew on. Here's a provocative thought for you, thinking about your own strategies. You're in a tight match. Your crucial par 5 boss dragon is stuck in the water hazard. You have 2 options in hand. One is a caddy relic. It can only save up to par 4, so it's useless for the boss, but it could reliably pull back a smaller dragon from the rough later. The other is a technique relic. It can save the par 5, your game winner. But you know, if you roll that 6 on the retrieval attempt, that dragon is gone forever, out of bounds. So, the question is, when the game is on the line, how much do you trust fate? That 1 in 6 gamble over proven form and stability. How much risk are you willing to take to save your greatest asset? Something to think about before your next tea time.